Oh yes, hello Leo. This is your project manager, James Evans, for your 2015 Build a Deck project. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through final status review of the project, where we stand, and how we expect to meet the deadline established in our discussions for July 17th of 2015. As you're aware, we've been working on this back deck for you in time for your family gathering scheduled for July 17th of 2015. Up to this point, we've had a few changes, but nothing we've been able to both accept and meet. That being said, right now we are on track to complete the actual deck on July 22nd. This has been primarily due to weather issues and delay in some of the work that's being performed. And as such, we are looking to condense our schedule, compress our schedule to bring it in 5 days to meet that July 17th date that's so critical to you and your family. We understand that you have a family celebration on July 18th. That as of right now, you've accepted a cost of $18,500 as the budget for the deck. Up to this point, with recently revised changes over the last several weeks, but you have expressed a $200 penalty per day that we have delays. Now, as we go through this analysis, you'll see that we have revised our cost to incorporate crashing methodology and crashing actions to bring the schedule in 5 days. So that has raised the estimated cost of the project about an extra $1,000 to $19,519.75 in order to meet this July 17th date. Here's a quick review of our schedule. Now, what you see highlighted in yellow is the proposed changes that we've made to bring the schedule in 5 days. I will break this down momentarily, but what you'll see here is we have essentially 6 key tasks that we're focusing on crashing or making changes to bring the schedule in from July 22nd to July 17th. The first task we're looking at doing is this deck constructed portion of the project. As far as that change, how its impact in terms of time frame and hours and cost, I will address shortly. Corner gazebo construction portion also is being reduced as well, or crashed if you will. That also has an impact on both the time frame and the hours being allocated and costs, which we'll go into shortly. Ground prep and leveling is also being addressed in terms of time-wise. Installing pavers, we're actually going to be discussing that as well, as far as how we expect to increase the completion, or I should say decrease the time frame, increase the efficiency of that as we move forward in that tasking. And then ultimately the landscaping portion of the Build a Deck project in terms of backfilling the low areas and also performing a final clean. So let me move over to discussing how each of these are addressed, the cost and schedule impact, and how we plan on meeting those specific action items. Now, specifically, I spoke about 6 tasks that we are addressing in our updated and revised schedule. The deck constructed portion of the initiative will take 1 day off of our schedule for a total cost impact of $600. So I referenced TCI throughout this little slide here. That cost is based on 1 day laborer. The gazebo also is being reduced by 1 day, also due to 1 laborer at a total adjusted cost impact $334. One thing I will note is that as we increase the labor on these tasks, the dollar amount for the labor does vary, but it also impacts the other resources already on the specific task. And so let's say there's a PM, for example, devoted to 25% of the effort, but then you add in that laborer and it reduces the PM's share to maybe 10% labor. That's going to reduce the cost overall. So that's why these numbers vary a little bit. The ground prep leveling, excuse me, ground prep leveling is a task that can actually be done 1 day early. And that's another method of reducing schedules, looking at course tasks that can be done concurrently, which I will address shortly. Install pavers will take 1 day. Here we're using an outside resource, which I will touch on. Backfill, we can do the backfilling portion of the landscaping in a 1 day reduction at a total cost impact of $198. And then the perform final clean, while we're actually adding additional resources, the overall reduction in hours actually generates a $13 savings. Now, what analysis did we use to conduct this or generate this recovery plan? So as I spoke about, we are currently running about 5 working days behind schedule, or 1 calendar week in total. The original due date was July 15th. Right now, it is set for July 22nd, which is 5 days past the due date. Again, the shift in this project schedule has been primarily due to weather conditions, as well as just general work delays. We understand, Leo, that you as the project sponsor owner expect the completion date no later than July 17th to allow for hosting of family celebratory events marking the completion of the deck. And anything past the 17th results in $200 delay fine. So with that in mind, our recovery plan really needs to focus on not only creating and allowing schedule compression to align those finish dates, but also minimize ultimately the cost increase. So while this may be challenging, we definitely believe it is more than attainable. So as we went through the schedule to determine what the best course of action is, there are 3 constraints that we focused on, if you will, 3 recovery solutions that we can apply fairly quickly to recover the project and meet that deadline. One is adding additional resources. This is a very common approach to trying to compress schedule. The thing to realize, though, is that just because you add additional resources does not mean that the proportional results of the schedule savings is I should say the results of schedule savings is not proportional to the resources added. For example, doubling resources does not mean that you cut your time in half. Much of that has to do with a few things. One is communication. The more people you have, the more threads of communication you have to worry about. In addition to that, there's also only so much you can do in terms of efficiency the more labor you add. Fast tracking is this idea of rearranging project tasks so that critical activities or activities that are on a critical path can be done concurrently with other tasks rather than sequentially. So sometimes tasks, people like to do the finish to start approach to a schedule where one task is completed, the next starts. There are some tasks on a critical path where you can start one task and immediately start the other task, and that will reduce the duration of the project. And ultimately, outsourcing is a third area we've looked at. This covers both outsourcing labor and material. Outsourcing is the idea or concept of essentially hiring a subcontractor who has a certain area of expertise, be that an individual company or tool, to actually perform a specific activity or set of activities to increase efficiency and reduce schedule, and often at a lower cost than what we can do ourselves because of the expertise. In this case, we apply that to the paver installation and the hiring of an expert laborer. Going back to fast tracking, we took the ground prep and worked that simultaneously with another task that allowed us to reduce duration by 1 day. So what are some key challenges that we can look at as far as meeting the successful completion of this project? Well, ultimately, bear with me for a minute. I apologize. This slide is not applicable to the Build-A-Deck project. I mean, it's a general, if you will, more of a general idea of challenges, successful completion as it applies to project management. But let me actually skip over to what I want to address, which is the risk to executing this specific project successfully. Now we notice that there's a lack of slack in the project schedule. In other words, there's no wiggle room, and so any delays in these remaining tasks that are set will ultimately cause the project to go beyond the 17th. As it is, we are trying to reduce the schedule and move to the left, trying to remove 5 days, and so any delay in those activities minimize or mitigate or any possibility of reducing the schedule. And also, because the schedule date is 7/17, which is the day before your party, the cost has increased to $19,519, about $1,000 over what you had expressed you were comfortable with for the budget. Final comments. So as we walk you through the overview of what the status is with the project, what actions we can take to reduce the schedule to meet that 7/17 date. What I will share with you is that those 3 recovery solutions we mentioned, which was the fast tracking, the outsourcing, and the the additional resources we've added as well, ultimately allow the Build-A-Deck project team to ensure, Leo, that we're able to meet not only delivery to you in terms of quality, but a project that is well received in the time frame and cost as requested. Projects rarely go according to plan, but with our dedicated project team, our engaged, focused on customer service with you, and our goal of innovative solutions to meet these challenging circumstances, we believe we have the ability to deliver a quality of product that meets or even exceeds your expectations as the customer, Leo. So we wholeheartedly believe that this Build-A-Deck project is that type of project to meet not only your expectations, but really set a foundation for future project success. Thanks again for your time, and reach out to us with any questions. But again, we look forward to meeting and delivering a quality project on time, within budget, and to allow your family to have a fantastic July 18-15 celebration. Bye.